This is Shockwave News live reporting here on Saturday, April 11th, 2020. You can find me online at tumblr.com/Shockwave News. You can also find me at twitter.com/Shockwave News 1. And I am on SoundCloud now at soundcloud.com/Shockwave News. Let's get into the news. There's something bothering me here. This article is in naturalnews.com. The headline is Massive Fraud Alert. I repeat, Massive Fraud Alert. Coronavirus Recovery Bill gives Fed control of over $450 billion in secret. Who's going to get this money? So Congress, as usual, and this goes to, say, both houses, Democrat and Republican, always has a habit throughout history of screwing the American people. What I mean by that is specifically is when they pass a bill, they always got to have pork in there. Pork meaning there's things that both parties, one party is opposed, the other party wants really bad. That might be funding for abortion. That might be maybe somebody wants to improve a grocery store in their district. It could be anything, for God knows, or the streets, or who knows what. But that's what pork is. It's a bill not related to the original bill, the primary bill. And the Democrats and Republicans, the Congress, especially the House will go through, and the House will cram all these extras into the bill. That's what happened to the stimulus bill that's coming out right now for the American people, the $2.2 trillion. And like all the rest of you, I'm waiting for my stimulus payment as well. But you know something? Just like anything else, they don't tell you. There's no transparency where the money went. $2.2 trillion. Well, that's all they're telling us. They're not telling us about the other at least $10 trillion that they spent due to the fact they want to keep up Boeing, they want to keep up the airlines, they want to keep up the hospitality industry, the Hiltons, the Hyatts, and all that, Boeing, all the Southwest Airlines. They want to keep everything going. So they're giving away billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to these airlines and these big companies. The article continues here. And they're rushed to do something to help Americans harmed economically by the coronavirus pandemic, which has led most state governors and mayors to issue a stay-at-home order and to shutter businesses deemed non-essential. Congress once again has passed a gigantic spending bill, which is long on spending, and we don't have a short on oversight. So in other words, when it says oversight, nobody's really paying attention. There's no accountability in this giant, massive fraud spending bill. This should have just been straightforward, cut and dry. Here's $2.2 trillion, no bailouts and no friggin' banks. No bailouts of the airlines. Boeing, they can handle things themselves. They'll be okay. This should have just, been for the American people. It was not. It's loaded with pork. It's loaded with all kinds of spending. And this is the only way, to be honest, that Congress can get anything done in Washington. It's like, well, I'll give you this if you give me that. If you sign off and you give me that, or I'll give you that if you give me this. They sell their souls to the devil, basically. And it's very, very, very disturbing of how they get things done there in Washington. It would blow your mind. I've ran into and have gotten to read lots and lots of in-depth articles over the years of people off camera, off the record, of what it's really like. And it's just a cesspool. Washington is nothing but a cesspool that needs to be drained. I do agree with President Trump on that issue. It needs to be drained desperately, not yesterday, not tomorrow, not a week from now. It needs to be drained now because it's so bad. Back to the article. Congress once again has passed a gigantic spending bill that is long on spending and short on oversight. I read that. One little notice provision in the recently passed $2.2 trillion CARES Act, they're calling it a CARES Act, oh, isn't that sweet, provides Federal Reserve with a nice pile of money. So it does provide the Federal Reserve with huge funds. Guess how much? $450 billion to be specific. And with that, they can do what it pleases as long as it's called relief. Not only that, but the Fed will be able to manage these funds with far less oversight, meaning essentially it's a secret slush fund that the Fed board governors can do what they want when they please. Tucked into the recent recovery bill, the $450 billion bailout without the key provisions of the Fed open meetings law, including announcing meetings or kept records, most of them according to political review of the legislation. The provision calls for question of transparency and oversight for the biggest bailout law ever passed by Congress. President Donald Trump has indicated he does not plan to comply with another part of the law, new law intended to boost Congress oversight powers of the bailout funds. And earlier this week, Trump dismissed the government official chosen as chief watchdog for the stimulus package. This is what happens when you quickly authorize a spending package the size of the CARES Act, which is 880 pages long, by the way. Whomever inserted the language knew what they were doing. Political notes that the section addresses the compliant of the central bank dealt during the financial crisis of 2008-2009. Then, apparently, Fed board members could not easily hold the group conversations to address rapidly proceeding meltdown. So this just goes on, the political article that I'm reading now just goes on and just basically concludes, but it's just talking about the bill for the Fed. And if that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what the hell will. We need the money. We need the money now. It's just absolutely positively crazy that Congress is so friggin' useless. And this is the evil that lies in Congress. This is the evil. And I'm not saying everybody's bad in Congress. I'm just saying we need some common sense. There is no common sense. There's common theft is what it is. And, you know, the joke here, at least here in Central Florida on the streets, is when they refer to D.C., it's, you know, instead of Washington, D.C., which is supposed to stand for the District of Columbia, for those people that don't know that. Those people down here I run into here in Central Florida, they refer to Washington, D.C. as D.C., the District of Criminals, meaning that's all they do up there in Washington. They're just a bunch of crooks and a bunch of criminals that call themselves congressmen, call themselves House representatives and senators, and they're nothing but a bunch of crooks, all of them. Now, there are a few exceptions to the rule that are some decent people, but the decent people are outnumbered probably 50 or 100 to 1 when it comes to morals and ethics and working for the people, by the people, and with the people. And this is what we have right now. And so, as many of you, again, as I conclude this podcast, wait for your stimulus check. Probably the majority won't see the stimulus check until, I would say, at least the end of the month, this being the month of April. But just think, as you spend that stimulus check, just think, nothing in this world comes without consequences. And anytime the government gives you free money, there's always a string attached. They'll say no strings attached. I can guarantee you, you're going to get it up the ass one way or another, because they're going to end up raising your taxes. They're going to do something. Just think about this. They're not going to hand out free money, and you say, oh, well, who cares, blah, 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 blah. And they're not going to continue to hand out free money without you being subservient to them or you owing them something. That's not how this works. You always owe the government something. The only time you don't owe the government something is when you're dead, and usually what happens is your relatives or your wife or your spouse or somebody, your children, may end up paying the debt. But that's how this is. You never get away with getting a freebie from the government. That doesn't ever work. So, again, just think about that when you're opening up your stimulus check and you see it in the bank, your $1,200. This is Shockwave News reporting live. You can find me online at tumblr.com/Shockwave News. You can find me online also at twitter.com/Shockwave News 1. And, of course, on SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/Shockwave News. This is Shockwave News reporting live. Take care. God bless. I'm out of here.